Ironside will not be seen tonight, so we may bring you the following special program.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
We can't hear you.
Okay, there we go.
Here we are.
All right, there we go. Welcome back, everybody. Time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. I am happy to welcome Paul Tobin, Colleen Coover. Great to see you both.
Great to be here.
It's been far too long. And shame on me, man. I'm pretty sure Paul's done the show before. Colleen, have you ever been on? I don't think you have.
Nope.
My apologies, buddy. Long time coming. Given how long I've known you both and everything. Well, it's great to see you. It is interesting because, as you well know, 10 years ago, Monkey Brain Comics got underway. And here we go. Let me get the logo. That's not the logo. That's Mr. Spock. That's the logo. And, of course, your award-winning double header there, Bandet, which is outstanding. And am I right? Do you guys still occasionally do a new volume?
We do. Right now we're trying to figure technical things out with the next episode, and then there will be another print volume. So at least one.
At least one more, yeah.
So yeah, there's more Bandet to come.
That's fantastic. Award-winning, Eisner-winning, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
3 times.
Amazing. Good deal. Absolutely. So, I started a conversation last night with Chris Robertson and Allison Baker, and talking about the start of Monkey Brain. Tell me, with Bandet, what happened? How did you guys get together with Monkey Brain on this concept? Which came first?
It was that conversation in New York where we were all drinking in a bar, and they were like, "We're going to do this thing, Monkey Brain, and we want you to do a thing." And we were like, "Oh, all right, that sounds like a good thing to do."
Yeah, we've known Chris and Allison for a long time, so when they started it up, they were like, "Oh, we want you guys to do something," and we didn't really understand the digital format at that time. So basically, we just did one of those things of, well, whatever we're going to do, we're going to have the most fun possible. We're just going to we're just going to do whatever we want to do.
I think we meant it to be a side gig.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, like that had like all the things that we just genuinely wanted to do with like no input from anybody else. So I had that one character. I had the character of the French Policeman, who I had drawn like a sketch of for my sketch blog.
Because she wanted to draw a big nose.
I was feeling very French that day, and I wanted to do like a Jacques Tardy or Hergé type character.
Sure.
With a cigarette hanging out of his mouth because that's so French, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But so I was like, well, whatever we do, I want to have this French policeman in the story. And he was like,
so he was the first character. He predates Bandet.
Yes.
Wow.
For sure. Yeah. And then you were like, I want to do some sort of
I grew up like reading like Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew and things like that. So I kind of wanted a teen detective thing, but I'm like, I don't really want a detective. I just want something flavored, something like that. Let's make her a thief. And then Bandet kind of
specifically a girl. You wanted it to be a girl.
I did want a girl, yeah.
Sort of an inverse Nancy Drew.
Because I always liked the Nancy Drew novels more than the Hardy Boys one.
Oh wow, sure. Funny. I'll admit I never read Nancy Drew, but I was certainly aware of it because they were right next to the Hardy Boys when I'd get a new one. So I know what you mean.
Each other. They always had an out. If one of them got in trouble, the other one could save them. But Nancy Drew, she had herself. So
that's true.
And crucially, Nancy Drew also had, like Bandet, her friends. Bess and Joel, I think their names were. So
nothing against the Hardy Boys, who I still love and would write, but
God, Steve Grant actually. Now that I think about it, with time and everything, it probably was more than 10 years ago. But I know he's written a couple of the newer Hardy Boy novels, and also I do know in the last 5 years or so, somebody was doing Hardy Boy comic books and Nancy Drew comic books.
Yeah, I can remember like little bits of ire when I would see somebody doing Nancy Drew comics and go, "Well, that's not me. What's going on?"
Right.
Outstanding. And it's funny. Last Friday they ran a bunch of Jack Lemmon movies on Turner Classic Movies. And I don't know, Irma la Douce, do you guys like that French film? Or it's Billy Wilder doing France, but all Americans in it.
Right. I think Bandet sort of came about sort of a similar way, where it was like, I don't know, they might have been remaking an actual French film for Irma la Douce, but we were like, let's make a 1960s Franco-Belgique bande dessinée just as purely as we can without any reference or being French. Other than what's, in our cultural memory.
Yeah. Like it's kind of set in Paris in our minds, but at the same time, we never really say Paris because we don't want people to write us and say, Bandet went from this point to this point in 10 minutes. That is not possible.
She went from the first arrondissement to the 19th arrondissement, and that is not possible. Actually, I don't know. Maybe it is possible. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
The only location in Bandet that is real that I can think of right now is Père Lachaise Cemetery, and we specifically say that she goes to Paris to Père Lachaise Cemetery.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my favorite cemetery I've ever been to.
Yeah.
I'm not really a cemetery person, but
it's a cool cemetery.
It's a cool cemetery, and I visited the grave of Oscar Wilde and gave his tombstone a kiss back when it was available to do that.
Yeah, you can't do that anymore.
You can't do it anymore.
They put up plexiglass.
Yeah.
Now it's just really dirty plexiglass.
Very dirty lip gloss.
Seriously, the whole thing was very unhygienic and not cool.
Yeah.
I know who's got that job wiping that plexiglass down. Hey.
Yeah,
not enough lava soap in the world to wash my hands with that. Good Lord. Too funny, man. Well, that's awesome, and I'm glad to hear. I hope sooner than later. Again, no pressure. Everyone's got gigs and stuff like that. But I hope we'll see the return to Bandet soon. Is it who publishes Bandet? The hard copies.
Dark Horse.
Okay.
It's the reprint publisher. Yeah.
Cool.
So there are 4 volumes of Bandet out in the first 3 volumes are available in softcover, and the 4th is available in hardcover.
Cool. That's great. And then digitally available wherever digital comics are, or tell me.
It was Comixology, but since they did their big rearrangement, we're still working on setting that back up.
Yeah, we're still trying to figure out the digital end. It did get snafu'd, and we're trying to untangle that knot. We're gonna work on that.
No, I understand, man. Well, Martin has a cool question. Are the artists and paintings referenced in Bandet real, even if Paris isn't?
Yes.
Some of them.
Yeah.
Some of them are.
Suzanne Valadon is a particular favorite of mine. She was a really good painter and was a model for a lot of the Impressionists. And
the whole 4th volume is centered around an actual painting, which is called The Artist Studio by Peter something. I forget it. Dutch.
Yeah, in the collections we try to put together a little here's the real stuff, a little notes and factoids and things like that.
Yeah.
'Cause I love that whole culture, and I basically, if Bandet steals something, it's probably something that I personally would like to steal if I was slightly talented and brave.
There was one painting that you described in the script as a lost Van Gogh, and I was like, yeah, thanks, dude. I'll just whip out a Van Gogh out of my head.
Oh, it was pastoral scene.
Yeah, no, it was a portrait.
Flowers
and it was fine.
Yeah.
Is it fun, Colleen? Or is it a chore to try to approximate an artist in your style?
Well, Van Gogh he's super unique, and there is no.
But he's easier to ape in like 2 dimensions.
Yeah,
like
sure.
Until we actually took a trip to Paris, like Van Gogh was like pretty low down on my list of favorite artists. I was like, oh, his stuff looks cool, but it's not blowing me away. But then we went to the Musée d'Orsay in Paris, and seeing the paintings,
it's pretty transformative.
They have a tangibility that, like, to them, it's like you are drawn in. I went there because I thought I was going to really enjoy like the Toulouse-Lautrec, who's like a favorite artist of mine.
And then it turns out that those are nice.
Yeah, those are nice when you see them live, but they're really no different than you see them in a book.
They're commercial art, so they were meant to be reproduced.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Whereas the Van Gogh, the only other time that it has happened where I've seen an original thing that blew me away and made me go, oh, I see, was in Chicago at the Art Institute. They have Nighthawks.
Yes, Hopper. Yes.
And do you go and just look at that ever?
I'm so glad you said that, Colleen, because honestly, while I haven't been in a lot of art museums around the country, I've taken full advantage of being in Chicago and the Art Institute. My dad had a diner a couple blocks away, and I would work summers there. And he only had to work the lunch hours. So after 2:00, it's like, all right, go do what you want. And I would just go to the Art Institute. And not only Hopper and Nighthawks, which I absolutely adore, but mentioning French painters, Seurat and Sunday in the Park is so amazing. And the pointillism and to be able, again, as you guys said, to go up close and really appreciate that, how he did it. It's mind-boggling. So I do understand from a basic art standpoint, seeing it in person.
Pointillism is very different. Like you're 20 feet away from it versus like right up close. It's hugely different.
There's that great moment in Ferris Bueller when Alan Ruck is looking at the Seurat and it keeps zooming in, and he gets the more and more blank look on his face of confusion, and it's so fantastic.
Right.
No, I love that. You're right, man. It's cool.
And you find like you spend your life looking at some paintings, and it's like, oh, this painting looks nice and things like that. Then you find it in a museum, you're like, nobody told me this was 12 feet by 16 feet. What is going on here? Like Washington crossing the Delaware? That's the huge painting, like massive.
That's true. Now I've been to the Smithsonian, so I have seen some of that great patriotic art. That's fantastic, man. Too much. Well, that's awesome. Now we'll go back to collaborations in a moment, and also, Colleen, I want to know if I'm missing anything as far as other current stuff that you want to talk about. But Paul, I should mention, obviously, you got a couple of things going great at AfterShock, the new series, Calculated Man. So give us the pitch on Calculated Man.
Calculated Man, that's the story of Jack Beans. He's a math genius, and he has a lot of like differentially ways of looking at the world. He sees math as colors a lot. He can't lie. He's just a genius in a lot of different ways. And he used to be an accountant for a mob family, but got out of that. But now they're hunting. He's in the witness protection program, and they've found him. So he's calculated that really the only way he can survive this time is if he literally kills every single member of the crime family. So it's his quest to survive by killing every member of the mob family. So, but he's skilled. He's been teaching himself parkour, and he has complete memory. So he like puts drones in the air and memorizes the entire city, so that he can know every last aspect. And he's been an interesting character to write. It reminds me of back when I was writing Fantastic Four, because Reed Richards was like, I was so happy that my friend Jeff Parker had been writing Fantastic Four, and he'd kind of established Sue Storm as the leader.
And this is for the Marvel Adventures.
Yeah, for Marvel Adventures way back.
Yes.
And it was so much better to write Sue Storm as the leader, because if you write Reed Richards as the leader, it's like, well, he's a genius and I am certifiably not. So so it's hard to write from the perspective of a genius. But it's writing Calculated Man is reminding me of those days of writing Reed Richards. I mean, there's no superpowers or anything, but yeah, it's always kind of fun to write a genius character because I have to step back from it and deal with how other people perceive them.
That's what you did with Genius Factor too.
My series of middle grade novels. Yeah, the main character was a genius, but I did everything through the view of his friend because, again, it's hard to write from the perspective of a genius unless you're, Richard Feynman or something.
I get it. Absolutely. Now that's cool. I want to stay on AfterShock for a minute because I also obviously want to mention Bunny Mask, but I do want to get back to what, like middle school readers and other things that you're doing. And Colleen, I would certainly hope that you're also taking advantage of the book market rather than just the comic book market in your art and everything. But Bunny Mask, also, Paul, we're on volume 2 now. This is the first issue. I don't know if this is this the new miniseries or was this the first arc?
This is the Hollow Inside is the second arc. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So cool. And again, give us the, elevator pitch on Bunny Mask.
It's written from the perspective of Taylor Severin, who got abducted early in the story and forced to build a cave. There's a madman who is just digging into the side of a mountain because he thinks there's secrets in the mountain. And there's some ancient gods in there. And Taylor uncovers Bunny Mask, who is maybe the force of good, maybe a force of bad. She's really indecipherable. She wants justice is what she wants. She wants to cure sickness. But Tyler is finding out that basically an elder god's view of what sickness and what justice is hugely different from what our perspective is. And that's something like when I was growing up, I was a huge fan of like Greek and Roman mythology and things like that. But all they really were super powered humans.
Yeah.
Really. They have the same thoughts, the same perspective, the same, it's like, what do they want to do at night? Well, they want to, hook up with somebody and have a couple of beers, and it's like, well, that's great. We all do that. We just don't toss lightning or turn into a goose. Or just, we do destroy lives.
Well, that's true.
But I like a power that just doesn't really, that interacts with humanity, but doesn't necessarily understand humanity, and we certainly can't understand them. So Bunny Mask is that. She's a indecipherable being with very strange powers that kind of wants Tyler to help her save the world, but her view of saving the world.
Got it. Yeah, it sounds like the Spectre almost too. That spirit of vengeance kind of thing, which is great.
Yeah, and I grew up on like the old Hammer films too, and so like a little sexiness doesn't hurt. And it's like all the evil creatures throughout life or throughout film and TV seem to always be like dudes. Dude in a clown suit.
Oh, sure.
Dude in a hockey mask, dude with claws on his hands, and blah blah blah. So I wanted, if you've ever been to a horror movie with someone you're dating, you'll notice that they kind of tend to go, oh, it's like horror kind of brings us together in a fun little way, because it excites the thing. So I wanted a little Hammer film aspect of it. Or maybe a little Dario Argento to go a little more grown up.
I'm with you. Absolutely, man. I'm a big Hammer fan. And really, pretty much it's prime from the late 50s through the early 70s. And you're right. And also, too, and I was wondering if you're going this route, Dr. Jekyll, Missy Hyde, and, I can't think of the actors, shame on the women that were like these bad Hammer women and stuff that were sexy, but also pretty scary too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Those Hammer films were great. It wasn't until I was like older that I really appreciated them more, because watching Hammer films cut for late night Iowa television in the 1970s is a different aspect. It's like Dracula comes through and there's this big, bosomy peasant woman, and it's like, that's cut.
Commercial.
Cut.
Absolutely, man. That's so funny. Yeah. Did you guys have in Iowa, did you have a local horror host? We have, of course, Sven Gulli, who's become a good friend. In fact, I'm even doing his panel at C2E2 in about a month. And I'm, as always, I love doing it. He's such a good guy.
So cool.
Yeah, we didn't have any hosts or anything like that. Yeah.
The weatherman didn't put on a wig or anything like Count Floyd on SCTV. And
no, we had a Bugs Bunny guy in my part of Iowa, Dr. Max and Mambo out of Cedar Rapids. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, all right, you're Cedar Rapids. Paul, what part of Iowa were you?
Charles City, like up near the Minnesota border.
Okay. Sure. All right, we're Midwest people. Come on, man. Absolutely. That's cool. So did you guys meet when you were still in Iowa, or how did you guys get together?
Yeah, in Iowa City. I went to high school and college in Iowa City, and then he went to college before me. We both dropped out and wound up just meeting each other through comics because you ran the comic shop.
Yeah, I was running a comic shop, and Colleen was a customer.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
And I thought she was neat.
She is neat. Absolutely. You're both neat, but I mean, absolutely. No, that's great, man. Very cool. That's awesome. Who else were there other creators in the community? Because I know, like Hester is there now. I don't know if you grew up in there and everything.
Yeah. Him and Hester were a part of a small group of Iowans and like Missourians, some.
Yeah, to a certain degree.
But
Hester's the only one that's like really still in comics.
Yeah.
And Phil got me into comics because until I moved to college in Iowa City, I thought you needed to be in like New York or something to do comics. And it's weird because this doesn't sound like it fits together, and it's because it doesn't. But I did have some favorite comic book writers. But at the same time, I didn't really understand that comic books were written. That, to me, comic books just sprung whole. So even though I had favorite, like Steve Gerber, things like that, I'm like, oh, I love this Steve Gerber comic. But I didn't really understand that he wrote it, that there was a script involved. So it wasn't until I met Phil, and Phil was already doing like some real, it was like during the black and white explosion years. And he was doing a couple of comics, and I'm like, oh, I should write comics. And we did a couple of collaborations. All of my earliest comic work is with Phil. I just kind of went from there. Then I got grumpy and dropped out of comics for a long time. And then we moved here to Portland. Mm-hmm. And I was working at the Powell's bookstore, and Colleen was going into a studio, and we were all friends with like Steve Lieber and Jeff Parker. And then one day Jeff was like, hey, I'm working at Marvel. Do you want to work at Marvel? I'm like, yeah, sure. And he's like, call this number. And
this is right after you and I did Banana Sunday.
Yeah, we had just done Banana Sunday, but it was, to me, I wasn't thinking about career-wise. I was just thinking, it would be fun. Yeah, Banana Sunday.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I did my research. Absolutely. Tell me about Banana Sunday.
We just wanted to do monkeys, and we were heavily influenced. Like, what you see in Banana Sunday is the third Banana Sunday, because the first iteration, which was heavily manga influenced.
Rumiko Takahashi, especially
Rumiko, only made it like 12 pages before we quit.
Yeah.
And then
I did Small Favors for a while.
No, then we did, because I have all the originals upstairs. Okay. And then we did another version of Banana Sunday that made it like 20 pages before we quit. And then you did Small Favors. Okay. And then we got serious about Banana Sunday.
Yeah.
But by then, a lot of the manga influence had become influenced rather than
pastiche.
Pastiche.
Yeah. Because when we started in the proto versions of Banana Sunday, it was when like Radio Comics and other American small press publishers were doing a lot of Amerimanga or whatever, sort of
I'm with you.
American manga style comics.
Yeah.
So it was a lot more prevalent at the time. And with Banana Sunday, I don't know I do know what happened is I sort of got a lot of experience through doing small favors. And then by the time I started working on what became Banana Sunday, I was more manga influenced, but also mid-century illustration influenced, and also early 20th century illustration and strips influenced.
Kniff
and
brothers, Hernandez brothers, and
yeah, I mean the Hernandez brothers were always there, but also Wendy Peening was always there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great combination of people. That's really neat.
Mhm.
As far as influences, that's cool, Colleen. I never really thought of that. Again, I mean, I'm literally grabbing a sequence from Small Favors to show because I do want to hear more about Small Favors. So yeah, tell me about that, Colleen. How did that happen?
Basically, I wanted to do a comic for adults, a comic for women. I was working at the comic shop with Paul at the time by then, and I noticed that a lot of the women who came into the shop who weren't like pull list customers were coming in specifically to buy comics for adults. And I couldn't help but notice that a lot of the comics for adults were kind of gross.
Super gross.
and I was like, well, surely this can be done in a way that's not super gross. So
there was a time period where like almost all quote unquote erotic comics had a body count, and it was like, what are you guys doing?
I mean, even like the very otherwise kind of sweet bondage fairies would occasionally just do a hard left turn into murder, and I'm like, but I think a lot of that came from being a bridge from the 60s and 70s underground comics to erotic comics. And there was a lot of crossover there, like Cherry Pop-Tart has a lot of drug culture stuff. So this was stuff that was...
I still like Cherry.
I like Cherry, fine.
Sure.
I like it a lot, and I think it was pretty influential. But a lot of those comics were made to be sold not on the newsstands, but in the head shops, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you bet.
But by the time I came around, that was still happening in the adult comics, plus a bunch of violence because, that's just iconoclastic and naughty or whatever, bad boy stuff. But also, but by that time, there was a venue to sell erotic comics that wasn't the head shop, it was the comic shop. If the comic shop was, run by somebody cool.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I saw that there was a demand. I needed something to do that I wouldn't get super bored with because I had like an attention span problem with like sticking to one project at a time, and it seemed like this was something that would be interesting for a while. So I drew like 100 pages of Small Favors stories, and copied them all up and sent them to Kim Thompson at Fantagraphics and said, please, would you like to publish this? And he wrote back and said, yes, we would. So yeah, I did 8 issues of Small Favors before I was like, well, I think I've done what I can.
All the combinations exhausted.
All the various positions have been explored. And we can move on. Yes. And I was a little concerned about becoming that lady who does dirty comics. And it was never my intention to just do erotic comics. I wanted to do the best comics that I could.
Sure.
And I also, I wanted to tell other stories. I wanted to tell stories that didn't have to be, wrapped in plastic.
Absolutely.
or hidden from children. So yeah, then we went back to working on Banana Sunday right after that. That was our first project after that.
Yeah.
So
very cool. Well, Colleen, I will say too, one of my favorite, it was a short thing, but you did it for Marvel for Girls Comics, and that was your Shamrock story. And I couldn't find an image from the book, but there's a sketch that you did of Shamrock, obviously. I think is that Marvel Girl? It's Phoenix. Shame on me. I was going to say, where's the Shamrocks? Good Lord.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, I want to hear about your Shamrock story because I remember
Karen and Monin, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, wrote
Catherine
it.
Immerman.
Yeah. And that was the only time that I've been colored by someone else. Betty Breitweiser
Sure.
story. And it was so pretty. I just wanted to lick it. It was like, oh.
She's a great talent. She really is one of the top colorists, 100%. Right? Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
But yeah, Karen wrote it, and then there were some other. There was like a what do you call it? A framing device that I wrote and drew for Girl Comics as well. And it was just like at the beginning of each of the 3 issues. Cool. And it was just I drew every female character from Marvel Comics that I could think of, and some that I couldn't think of because I not like somebody come out with another girl. But yeah, that was a fun project. I think there were a lot of really good stories in there, and I hope people go back to that occasionally and see what good stuff was happening.
You know, I have Marvel Unlimited, and it just occurred to me now as we're talking, I should really look and see if it's there. And I don't even know if the trade is still something to find. I imagine it would be used and everything, but no, truly. And, you know, again, this is really before I think what we're experiencing now, which is it is a much bigger pond and opportunity for a lot more creators. So embarrassingly, it was a novelty, for a lack of a better word, to have an all women, you know, project like that. But it was great. You know, I'm a knuckle dragging Neanderthal and I loved it. So, you know.
Yeah, I think it got some flack from, you know, certain corners of the internet, but that's to be expected.
Yeah. There's never not flack.
We know who those guys are. But yeah, I thought it was a really good project, and I can't remember who all I worked with on that as far as editors, but they did a bang up job of putting it together.
Good stuff.
It's been a long time.
I know, again, and thankfully, again, things have gotten better. So now here's another collaboration you guys did. Nope, not Uhura. My images keep popping around stuff. There it is, Gingerbread Girl. Tell me about this one.
Shall I?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So we did this when both of us were getting a lot of work at Marvel. And like Paul was writing a lot of the Marvel Adventure titles.
All of them.
And I was working with Parker especially, but also you and Ben Lente. And basically we wanted to do something that would keep our toes in the independent comics market. So it's basically like our street cred project. And we wanted
not just street cred for me. I mean, if you look at my career, basically no matter where I'm focused at any given time, like young readers or horror or whatever, I'm probably itching to do something else as well, because I like to pop around forever, you know, and it's like, and I had started to get, I don't want to say bored of superheroes, but unsatisfied. I can remember Parker poisoned me. He tainted me. He was talking about not liking to write Wolverine very much. And I'm like, how can you not like to write Wolverine? Wolverine is so cool. And he said, every time you write Wolverine, you need to have the sequence where he pops his claws.
That's true.
And it's just like, then everything started to feel a little formulaic for me. And there was just so many people like going, oh, is this particular story canon? And it's like, it would be like, the answer would either be yes or no. And also, why would you care? And if the answer is yes, ask me again in 3 weeks, because it might not be canon anymore.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's like, it just felt a little churn it out
Yeah.
But I have to say, like Marvel to a certain degree is, I mean, this was back in like 2008, 2009, 2000. The stuff that some of the stuff that comes out from Marvel these days is exactly the type of stuff I wanted to do back then. And that I think like me and Jeff Parker and Fred Van Lente and Greg Pak and things, some others were like saying, like, what if we just had fun? What if these characters like being superheroes, you know, and things like that, which was, you know,
that was kind of
forbidden. I tried to say it in a different language, but I'm from the Midwest.
Yeah, that was kind of subversive, even.
Yeah,
like ooh, fun times.
I know from an art standpoint, Mike Norton did a lot of Marvel Adventure stuff too.
Yeah,
and you know, was doing Spider-Man and some of the big characters. But yeah, Marvel Adventures, and they were fun stories. But yeah, they were meant to be all ages stories. And you know, some people look down on that. Whatever. I mean, I certainly read my share of entertaining Marvel Adventures stories. So you know, no, I can appreciate that, and also the rote feeling, because there are obligatory things. I always, you know, the shorthand of Superman is he crashes through the wall, he stands up. I mean, it's the George Reeves show. He crashes through the wall, the gangsters shoot at him, they bounce off, he clunks their heads, and he flies off with them. All right, that's a Superman story. Sure.
Both bounce off him, and then they take the gun and they hit him in the head, and he goes unconscious. You're like,
remember the comedian Robert Wool? Or he'd say, the boats would bounce off, and then they throw the gun, and he'd duck out of the way. Hey, what are you doing?
Right. Well, Marvel Adventures, like, not only was it a lot of fun, but like I look back on it now and like as almost like a lot of my favorite artists in the industry come from animation, and it's because they needed to learn to tell movement and you know, and action in very quick lines. And Marvel Adventure, when we were writing them, every issue was a done in one. So it taught me how to tell stories in quick, graceful loops and things like that. So I credit a lot of my storytelling chops to those days of like learning how to tell and learning to come up with an idea and then move on from an idea. Because will not name any writers or any comics, but it's like there are comics that I've dropped because a writer got an idea and 36 issues later, still working on that same idea, you know, and the characters haven't grown, and it's just like churn, and it's like, gosh, if you can't come up with more than one idea, step aside.
I'm hip. No, I totally get it. Well, let's see. Here's Rassel Castle. Very cool. And yeah, I'm trying to see who did Rassel Castle.
It's Vault / Wonderbound.
Yeah.
And Colleen and I co-write it, and then Galad is the artist.
Okay. So tell me about Rassel Castle. What's the deal with this?
Go ahead.
Is this one of those ones that you came up with the title and I said, aha?
Oh yeah, yeah, I remember that. I was in the. A lot of my ideas come to me in the shower. I don't know why.
No, it's downtime. I totally know why. Absolutely. God, Mike Nichols, the great comedian and film director, he's like, everyone thinks, you know, when you're staring off in space that you're not working. He's like, no, you got to relax your brain. That's when the ideas come in. So no, the shower makes complete sense.
Yeah.
I've heard of guys coming up with ideas while they're mowing the lawn.
Yeah.
It makes
Bendis bike rides. That's when his ideas come to him and stuff. No, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets to the point sometimes where if I'm stuck for ideas, I'll go, I'll schedule a shower and it'll solve it all. But my ideas in the shower, as Colleen will attest, often generate from me just babbling, just speaking like an idiot. And one day I was just kind of in the shower and I was like, blah, 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 Rassel Castle. That's fun to say. Rassel Castle, Rassel Castle, Rassel Castle. And
Hey.
I came out of the shower and I said, Rassel Castle, that's fun to say. And she's like, you know, it is. You should do something like that. So, yeah, we came up, I was with Adrian Wassel. I was talking with him, one of the head editor publishers at Vault. And and Russell Castle just kind of sprung from there. Colleen and I always wanted to co-write, and it took us forever to find an artist. We went through so many artists that just weren't quite right or
not available.
And I can remember Adrian and I, on a phone call at one point, and he's like, "We got to get an artist. We got to get going." And I'm like, "I know. Nothing's working out." And he's like, well, "Strip down to the barest essentials. Like, what type of artist would you like?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Some guy like Galad, I think, would work out really well." And he's like, "Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Try to get someone like that." And he called me the next day and said, "You said someone like Galad. How about Galad?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that fits."
Yeah, yeah.
He's a lot of fun to work with, and he does that explosive, like, fun really well, and soft character moments. And if anybody reads my writing, you'll know that soft character moments or silent character moments are a big thing for me.
And he's clearly got that. Well, obviously we're big fans of the European comic sort of aesthetic, but also he brings a bit of that manga influence as well.
Definitely.
Sort of a Toriyama feel. So yeah, it worked out really nicely. It had the right kinetic energy that we needed for a sock 'em up fantasy story.
That's fantastic. Is it currently going? Is it where is Wrestle Castle with that right now?
Have come out so far, and there will be a third.
I don't know when it's scheduled.
I'm not sure when it's scheduled.
Long.
No, it should be pretty soon.
Sorry.
Okay. No worries. No, not at all.
I never know when stuff is coming out.
Never, ever. Don't know.
So, Calculated Man and Bunny Mask currently in AfterShock. First of all, anything else, Paul, that you're currently doing that I missed?
Well,
that you can talk about.
It's recently published, but My Date with Monsters also came from AfterShock.
Yeah, another book.
Okay, sure. Yes.
I'm still doing Plants vs. Zombies.
I was going to ask about Plants vs. Zombies. Absolutely, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Tell me where that idea did that also come from the shower?
Well, it was originally a game. Well, I mean, it still is a game, and they brought me on. Philip Simone, the editor, wrote me one day, and he asked, "Are you familiar with the Plants vs. Zombies game?" And I literally had the very first game up on my computer at the time, because I play it like in between, because it's a good game to play for like 3, 4, 5 minutes. So a mental break. And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm playing it right now." And he's like, "Well, you sound like you're the guy. You want to write it?" And it's just, I've been writing. It's probably the thing I've written the most of in my entire life. I think I've written like 27 graphic novels at this point now. Some of them aren't.
Wow.
But
who publishes Plants vs. Zombies?
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Colleen, what are you working on now that you can talk about?
Well, we are co-writing a thing that I can't talk about yet.
No problem.
I am still working on Bandet. I spent the last couple of years doing some illustration work for our MLS soccer team, the Portland, for their marketing department.
I'm sorry, I spoke over you. What's the Portland what?
The Portland Timbers.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, and also our NWSL team as well. They're also owned by the same ownership, the Portland Thorns. So I did some work with their marketing department for their TikTok campaign last year.
Cool.
That took a lot of the last couple of years, which was handy because my brain was not into like telling stories at all during lockdowns. So that gave me something to do.
And it was fun because like we're not only both huge soccer fans, but like soccer is partly responsible for our relationship. When we were first getting together, we would watch like the U.S. women's national team. And it was like,
it was like I think the first real soccer that I got into was the '94 World Cup.
Sure.
And that's when I was like, oh, this is a fun sport to watch on TV. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. And it's also, soccer is a really big deal in Portland. It's like second to basketball, I think.
That's great.
A close second as far as the people I know who like sports.
Which isn't that many.
That's a select community.
No, that's cool.
But so yeah, it felt like not only a lot of fun, and lucrative because they were paying me too, but it was a real part of the community, and a lot of the 2020 season was on hold. So a lot of their social media was doing public service announcements, getting out, the wash your hands, wear a mask, get vaccinated, stay apart, stay home, those sort of messages, and I was helping create fun images that would help promote that message. So it felt really important. So
that's awesome.
That's how I spent my last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
That's great to hear. And also, so are they animation? Are they just static images? What because it seems like your art style would lend itself to animation in a great way.
Yeah, I've never really done animation. These were cartoons for, they were like across social media, but they were, I think the 2020 campaign was mostly formatted for Instagram, and then the 2021 campaign was specifically for TikTok, and
sure.
A lot of that was process posts. So it would be like me drawing the thing, and then they were all like based on photographs like that the official photographer had taken.
Photographs of players
or photographs of the stands or whatever. So there were like my interpretation of that photo, like in cartoon or painted or whatever. I did a number of different styles. That was fun too, is exploring different digital styles. And then they would produce a TikTok out of that for like 20 seconds or whatever. And then sometimes they would display it on the big jumbotron at the
wow.
And I found that out while we were watching a game on TV, and I was like, oh, I didn't know. It was just this giant cartoon being produced on the jumbotron.
That's fantastic. So Portland Timbers TikTok, people can find your stuff there?
You'd have to go pretty deep at this point because they post like several times a day, and it was in 2021. So
okay.
You can search it out.
Yeah.
I was going to say people could search it out. No, that's great. Wow. Oh, I wish I had known. I would have grabbed one and we could have played it on the show here. That's fantastic. Very cool. So what about as Paul, you said earlier, you're doing like middle school, books as well. Are you guys both kind of hitting the book market in that way outside of comics?
I'd like to a little more. I'm starting to get back into thinking about doing straight up novels. I am pretty busy now, though. There's 3 unannounced comic series that I can't talk about.
Okay, good.
In addition to another thing that Colleen mentioned that we're co-writing that we also can't talk about.
Yeah,
no problem.
I should probably get an illustration agent or something and do some book stuff. I think that would be a good thing for me to do. I've never explored it, and I think I would need an agent to do that because that world is sort of outside my experience. So
I have
hit me up, agents.
I have
Amen.
More horror coming out and probably a Western.
Fantastic, dude. Not enough Westerns for my taste. Absolutely, man. I'm not hardcore, but I really love Western comics, and really, as I get older, really appreciate that more. That's great to hear.
Yeah. The thing that Colleen and I are working on together that we can't talk about is a romance. So that's another thing that I've never really written. It's going to be
outstanding.
Going to be fun. Well, I'm starting to think about maybe trying to get back into superheroes too, because I kind of miss them. I think I've done a superhero book for like a decade.
No.
Wow. Oh my God. Yeah, that's kind of crazy, man. Wesley is joining us and says he was working, but wanted to say he's a huge fan of I Was the Cat. I pre-ordered it based on previous description, and so glad I did. Tell me about I Was the Cat.
It's the story that Benjamin Dewey and I did a graphic novel together, and if I had noticed that like a lot of paintings of despots and like world rulers are like evil guys with like a cat in their hands and things like that. The story of I Was the Cat is that in all of those paintings, it was one cat. It was the cat that was trying to take over the world.
Was it Blowfield in James Bond? Cat?
Of course.
But it was the cat that was trying to take over the world. And as the story stands, like you can see him through the past with eight of his lives. And now he's on his ninth and last life, and it's his last chance to take over the world. So
that's great. Who published that?
That was Oni. So yeah, I Was the Cat refers to him like he's telling his life story to a reporter, and it's like I was that cat, I was that cat, things like that. It was
sounds great.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and Ben was just a perfect collaborator because he's so good with animals, drawing animals, and he has cats, and there's like he would put in these. My favorite collaborators are the ones that were like, okay, I read the script and you had like 5 things going on in the background. And I thought to myself, that's not enough things going on in the background. And I put some more in, Colleen does that too. I will always I'll put in little background stories in Bandet of like, if you watch people on the street, you can see consecutive things happening back there. And Colleen is very good at like putting those in and actually adding her own and things like that.
Yeah, I always have little secret stories in my head about characters that I'm drawing.
And I think that's important because so many writers write as if the main characters are the world, but it should be the main character taking place in a world. So there's tons of people who do not care about, if Spider-Man is going to save the city. They don't care. They're meeting. They have a first date at the cafe. That's all they care about.
Yep. That's very Jacques Tati, and also, God, I loved and talked to Dave Gibbons about this in Watchmen, where if you look carefully, there's a great dinner scene between Dan Night Owl and Laurie Silk Spectre, and in the background you see Captain Metropolis and Hooded Justice as an elderly gay couple. And even though it's reported both are dead, it's like, no, they're alive. They just kind of went away when things were too hot and everything, and they're fine. And I also love that in animation where, you'll have two characters up front, but really the comedy is happening, 100 yards away, and it's, somebody getting punched out or whatever, while this very mundane conversation is happening in the forefront. No, that's brilliant, man. I love that kind of storytelling and art. Very cool. That's great. Are you guys getting back into the convention scene? Is it still kind of it's certainly now we got the monkey flu to worry about as well as COVID and everything.
I probably am going to wander by the Rose City convention because the convention center is literally within walking distance of here. But as far as traveling to go to any conventions, I don't think so at this point.
I think it's going to be at least another year.
I really would like the table at a convention. Though,
yeah, we've got a lot of comp books to get rid of.
2.5 years of being a very busy writer and getting comps.
I just want to put them on a table and go, read these, please.
Yes.
That's awesome. No, I understand.
And even with like we talked about Bunny Mask earlier, I get all the covers for Bunny Mask, and the very first issue had, I think, 36 different covers all told. So,
wow.
So you get 2 or 3 copies of 36 different covers. Suddenly, you've got a pile of comics that you kind of
box of comics. All of a sudden, it's all the same comic.
Yeah.
Last year, I was a Ringo judge for Baltimore, and got a lot of not only graphic novels, but a lot of loose comics as well.
Yeah.
And thank God there's a fantastic book donation charity. And literally I had just over a dozen just filled boxes and stuff of loose comics and graphic novels and stuff. And it was great. They're like, oh, the kids are going to love this. I'm like, that's what I hope for. Fantastic.
And also now around my place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real, there was. It really was taking over a room. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, believe me, I can relate. No, and also just like you guys, I'm doing 2 Chicago conventions. In fact, this weekend is the former Wizard show that's now Fan Expo, because Informa bought the Wizard shows. So that's this weekend. And then a month later, like I said, I'm doing Svenguli's panel at C2E2, and that's in downtown Chicago. So I got 2 local shows, but I am doing I'm doing the Connecticut show, Terrificon at Mohegan Sun, which is a lot of fun. And I am going to do that as well. But no, I totally hear you, man. And it really is 50-50 in terms of creators feeling comfortable to, get back out there, but also ones staying home. Paul, a couple of years ago, you had that eye injury. Is everything okay now?
Nah, I'm losing sight in my left eye. It's just.
I'm so sorry, man.
There's not much I can do about it. But
It's slowly degenerating, but on the other hand, the cancer that was in it has responded well to the treatment that's causing the damage, so that's good.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Great to hear.
I did seem to get rid of the cancer, which is good.
That's fantastic. Well, Jesus, yeah, man. I mean, are you able to work around it and everything, or through it?
I can't work as long as I used to, which is good and bad. I mean, I used to put in like a 15-hour day, and that's just unreasonable. So now I probably work writing wise maybe 4 to 5 hours a day, and then the process of being a writer is the rest of my day, emails and Zoom meetings and things like that, which is not something I understood when I became a writer, that you don't get to write all the time. And in fact, probably the majority of my time anymore is dealing with this, or this legal issue, or dealing with this lawyer who says this, and dealing with this agent and things like this, or just the general, I got to do a lettering guide, and I got to do things like that.
Marketing calls. Oh, so many of them. It's a huge process to be a writer. It's like it's nuts sometimes. It's like, well, I worked hard all week. I put in massive amount of time, and I didn't write a single word.
I do know, man. I mean, again, you're talking to somebody that spent 30 years in Chicago radio, and now it's this, and that's okay. But you're your own, as you say, you're in your own marketing division, and I'm my own salesman for ads, and I get it, absolutely, man. But it's on the one hand, it's good because you kind of have control of your own destiny, and on the other hand, it's like you say, a lot more extra work. I get it.
Yeah, I just need to be one of those like hugely successful guys, so I can just hire helpers and things like that. And like, she used to be my main helper, but she's busy all the time now. So
good.
All right, man.
No, that's good. Well, that's good to hear, and I'm so glad you guys have upcoming projects, because it gives me an excuse to have you back in a few months, and we can talk about them. That would be great if you'd be willing. So please keep that in mind. Great to see you guys. I have a feeling the last time I saw you might have been that 2019 Rose City show.
Because that's possible.
I think so. Yeah.
That was.
We've been at. I know that for sure.
Well, and that's the last time I was in Portland. So no, I understand, and I do want to come back because, as you mentioned, a lot of our mutual friends like Parker and Wagner and Bendis are good friends, and I mean, so many and the Ruckas and a Fraction and Kelly Sue.
Oh,
so no, it's I mean, it's. Hey, if I could live anywhere, I would live in your city, because truly there are so many friends there that I know we'd have a great time. So
it's an amazing comic city. It's just like you just can't go anywhere without, there's somebody that.
Yeah. And every once in a while we run into somebody who's lived here for 20 years that we had no idea.
Well, just Sophie Franz is I love her cartooning. Yeah. She's fantastic. And I met her the other day, and it turns out we've been climbing together at my climbing gym for like 4 years.
Yeah, we've been.
She was just
that one lady,
that one girl that climbs over there, and she like introduces herself. Like, I'm Sophie Franz. I'm like, what the heck?
That's fantastic. That's wonderful. Very, very cool. Well, I'm glad you guys are busy. I'm glad there is new product currently to talk about, like the new volume of Bunny Mask, and of course, A Calculated Man. And looking forward to whatever's coming next. So truly, guys, as always, I'd love to see you, and thank you very much for doing this, and like I said, let's catch up. If not by the end of the year, then certainly at the beginning of next year.
Definitely.
All right.
Sounds great. Everybody, Colleen Coover, Paul Tobin, and John Suntress. I hope you enjoyed today's broadcast. This weekend is Fan Expo, as I said. So I'm going to be a little busy with the convention. So there won't be any new videos until early next week. So, but a lot of podcasting to put out, including this very conversation. So I hope you'll check it out.